Good afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday afternoon here in Edmonton and a rainy, cool day out. I hope it's nicer for those of you who are not in under Edmonton weather right now. I thought I would give you a little bit of a break from the very lengthy emails that I've been sending out to you, wrapping up last week's or this week's discussion, and give you a video introduction and some instructions on the literature review. So that is our discussion, our informal discussion next week in class or online, but it also is one of your major assignments. That assignment is due November 1st. You have a good month or more to be working on it, and I think that you're going to need it. Because it takes a bit of time to select your topic, find the articles, and then start to synthesize and write it. So I would start sooner rather than later. You've got a good amount of time right now to work on it. So I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to a literature review and highlight some of the readings, and then talk about the assignment rubric a little bit as well. But let me see, I don't have this on slideshow, do I? Let me just get it on slideshow here. There we go. But first of all, let me just show you what else has been occupying my time. These are the two kittens that were rescued literally from under a porch step a couple of weeks ago. I forget if I told you I had a pregnant mother who I was fostering, and then she escaped out of the house through a broken screen window, and she was missing for 3 weeks, and we located her just down the block from me under someone's front porch step, and the babies were about 2 weeks old at the time, and they're now going on, I don't know, I guess they're 3.5 weeks now, and starting to play and become a little bit more lively. So when I am not here creating videos and reading discussion posts or at work, my day job, I'm spending time with those kittens. Anyway, so I thought I'd just show you what I was up to there, because I think at the beginning of the year I had promised some kitten stories. So there's your kitten story for the day. All right, moving on. First of all, so it's about, this is about the discussion that will happen next week, which is an informal discussion. No need to create an initial post that is as formalized as this week's was, but I will still be looking at your participation throughout the week. So have some conversation perhaps with your discussion partners or your discussion participants on the elements of a literature review, things that are tripping you up, things that have clarity for you, literature reviews in library and information sciences literature, search strategies, strategies for writing, your experience in writing, that sort of thing. The readings for this week, or for next week I should say, are in Google Drive. If I can just pull those up for you here. They are not extensive and not very scholarly. There actually isn't a lot out there that really, sort of approaches literature reviews from a, kind of a theoretical or, holistic look. I just stuck to pretty practical, helpful, non-scholarly sources. So you can see that there's something from Ashton about writing a short literature review. I think that's the one that gives an example of how someone took 3 articles and then rewrote it thematically. So changing a literature review from looking like a annotated bibliography to looking like a review of the literature on a particular topic. And then there's another one called Writing a Literature Review. This Atkins and Wallace one is actually quite useful and quite extensive, and I think you'll find that quite interesting. And then there is a LibGuide that's from a East Carolina University libraries that I located that has a lot of different resources in it that can help you, guide you to writing your literature review. And then there's also a streaming video. So they're pretty easy to get through those 4, but you can kind of use them in the background as helpful guides, I guess, as you go through your literature review process. So those are the readings for this week, just so you're aware of what might assist you. Just a little bit about doing a literature review. The reason that we include lit reviews in our research, and probably most research papers that you read are going to have some element of a lit review in it. And it just provides us this overview of significant literature or expressions about a particular topic. It helps to demonstrate to the reader that you have a grasp on the topic, that you have a full understanding of, shall we say, the foundations for your topic and for an argument for the need for research in that particular topic. And it provides kind of a discussion or a critique of those sources of the approaches that have been taken to that particular topic, the different approaches that have been taken. It's not meant to be a criticism, but you do want to, I guess, critique it in terms of what is missing, or, what is your research going to bring into this topic, add to our knowledge of this topic that these other sources have not. And the literature review should implicitly express that. It should show, oh, okay, now I understand why this research is being conducted in this way with this population, with this approach, because all these other things have been done, but we haven't seen exactly that sort of look at it. So at the end of the literature review, the reader should have a sense that, okay, I understand the world in which this topic lies, and now I understand the reason that this research is going forward. It is not just a summary of a bunch of articles. The main thing that you need to present in your literature review is a thematic look or representation of the topic. It's not an annotated bibliography, which is a listing and a summary of different articles. But within the context of your topic, you're going to be using those articles as arguments or points of discussion or points of information about the topic. And I will give you an example in a minute. I've provided this slide here so you can go back and look at it on your own time about what a critical literature review is and what it is not. So you can kind of use that as a guide if you're wondering whether a particular resource is going to be useful and relevant for your literature review or not. This assignment has you looking at scholarly sources. That's not to say that you can't use non-scholarly sources, what we might call secondary data, which would be things like government statistics and reports, perhaps reports from different marketing companies, for example. Not things that have, I guess, organizations or places that have collected data in different ways other than scholarly. I wouldn't, some say, you can add in news stories. I wouldn't necessarily in this assignment add in news stories. I think I did in my dissertation when I was talking about the library paraprofessional and talking about the paraprofessional world in libraries developed. And I might have used some news stories, say, from the old Canadian Library Association. But, in the context of this assignment, I think the focus should be on the scholarly literature and what exists in that type of literature that you can bring to your topic. Not so much about I think you might be going too far afield if you stretch too far beyond that. But if you do have some secondary resources that you feel really are relevant and sort of essential to understanding the lay of the land, then you're not going to be docked for including them, but make sure that there's a good reason to include them. That's all I'll say about that. A couple of examples. One example would be this funnel, and this is the way that literature reviews are often described. If you look at what the focus of the study might be, which might be gender inequality on construction sites, you may be hard-pressed to find, a tremendous amount of information on that specific topic. And you do yourself a disservice by sticking to that narrow of a focus. So your literature review should expand more broadly than that and look at perhaps gender inequality in the construction industry. And then more broadly than that, perhaps gender inequality in male-dominated places. And then broadly, gender inequality in the workplace. And this might be how you actually structure your literature review, is talking first about the general and then working your way down to the specific. And that's a really easy path for your reader to follow as well. And then when you find articles and locate articles about these topics, you're going to, you'll find an article or research that's been done, say, on equality in the construction industry. And it may have some relevant information that you can use as part of gender inequality in the workplace section. So you're kind of mixing it up, right? You're not just talking about Jones and Smith's article from 2010 in relation to one of those areas, but you're bringing in quotes and comments and paraphrases from Jones and Smith article in whatever relevant space that it fits, that it's going to sort of help with your argument or help with the context, contextualizing that particular topic. So I hope that makes sense, what I just said. I'll give you another example, and this would be my own research. We haven't done the literature review for this yet, but it's on, as you know, it's on emotional labor in public libraries. And now there isn't a whole lot of literature that is out there on emotional labor in public libraries workers. So the way we might want to structure our literature review might be something like this. We'll probably start off first by talking about emotions in the workplace, or the emotional labor component in the workplace. Labor that involves sort of that emotional work and that need to sort of mask your true emotions. We might talk about as well the sociology of labor, and also about the emotional labor being related to gendered professions. So we're looking at it quite broadly, sort of the topic, maybe the theories behind that, the whole concept of gendered professions and where emotional labor is sort of attaching itself to a gender to gendered professions more than other professions. And then we'll define in there what emotional labor is. And then we might talk about emotional labor specifically in public service work. And then more narrowly, emotional labor in library literature or library workplaces. And then finally, most specifically, emotional labor in public library work. So we'll kind of funnel it down, I think, in that way. We can't just start off our lit review talking about emotional labor in public library work without providing a framework in which to understand why we're talking about emotional labor in this particular environment and what the background is. So it goes from the broad to a specific focus would be the best way to structure your literature review. The assignment details are now posted in eClass in the Google Drive, and I updated the rubrics. So have a look at the rubric and see how the marks are distributed. The main three things that I wanted to point out to you are, number one, to define your topic clearly and phrase your research query as a question on your title page. You can choose any topic that you like within library and information science literature. And so that way you're investigating something that is of interest to you. And the way that I will know kind of what your topic is, I guess, like I could just launch into the lit review, but it's best if it's framed within the context of a research question. So present your research question to me on the title page. Remember to think thematically about your topic and to use a range of resources. It doesn't need to be just library literature. So the details and the rubric are under your assignments link. And I'll show it to you here. There's the assessment. You must include 10 or more peer-reviewed articles. You need to provide an introduction that establishes your topic, and your research questions should be repeated within that introduction. This is what I'm studying, and this is why I'm studying it. What is my topic, and what is the purpose of my study? And then you can see the most marks per section are associated with how you've organized your literature review. So I'm just looking for a really clear path of understanding about your topic from the broad to the specific. Or at least a sort of a clear path that shows a progression and the logic behind why there is a need to research your particular area. And then there is a conclusion that just summarizes. That can be just a paragraph, a nice clear paragraph that kind of just summarizes the whole thing for me. What did you all discover? Where are you going from here with the research? References are APA style. With your paper, do an APA style paper. You don't need to add the running head. In fact, in the 7th edition of APA that's coming out in November, I heard that they're doing away with the running heads, which is, I mean, fantastic. There's grade marks associated with style and grammar and with your formatting, as well as to the length of your paper, to ensure that you're writing succinctly, because otherwise it can just go on forever. You want to be quite succinct in that. I hope that that's clarified what the assignment looks like and what I'm looking for with the literature review. And I think it's a really fun exercise in many ways because it does allow you to really get to know literature on a topic of interest to you. And many of you have expressed an interest in a particular area related to your job or related to research you've seen or related to things that you wish to pursue or that you've been studying while you've been in library school. So why not use this opportunity to do a comprehensive literature review and see what comes up in the literature on the topic. Just keep in touch with me by email if you have any questions, and let the discussion flow next week. Just really free. I'm just really free-flowing. I'm not putting any restrictions on what you can talk about, but I'm interested to see what some of your comments and experiences and suggestions are regarding writing literature reviews. So take care, and thanks for listening.